just gonna start milling up some shiplap, and I thought I'd make a good YouTube video. So job site I'm on right now, customer decided they wanted some stain grade nickel gap or shiplap type thing on a barreled ceiling. So rather than try and get a product milled specifically for that, because it's not a stock item, I decided, hey, just give me some 1x6 and I'll mill it myself. So that's what I'm going to do. So here's the rundown on how you can do that. A couple different options. First option, best option would probably be a molder, which is thousands and thousands of dollars and is not going to be practical for most people. Another one would be a shaper with a power feeder with an insert bit with a scoring blade. That would work really nice, but I've got my shaper set up with my lock miter set up, and I don't really want to mess with it just for this. So another option would be just to use a router with a rabbiting bit, and that would work also, but is prone to tear out, would make a huge mess, and probably not the most practical. So for this amount of shiplap, I'm just going to go ahead and use a dado stack on my table saw, and we'll see how that goes. The dado stack that I use is the Freud dial-a-width dado, and I can't say enough good about this dado stack. I'd highly recommend it. The unique thing about this dado stack is that you can turn this knob and it will adjust in 4,000th increments with one click of the knob. So it works great for dialing in really tight dados. This is obviously not going to be that precise. We're just going to throw a bunch of them together, and it's a lot more straightforward. But this is the dado stack that I use, and I'd highly recommend it. Before we get started, the other thing I'm going to be using are my Jessam hold down clamps. These keep the material pulled into the fence and pressed down at the same time. They just slide onto your fence here, and I'd also highly recommend these. So I will link up these tools in the notes below, and I'm going to get started milling this and getting my setup dialed in. Okay, so now I've got my dado stack dropped in. I just threw a bunch of blades together, so it's like 11/16 wide. I could have put a wood sacrificial fence on here and then ran my dado stack tight to the fence, but I didn't feel like wasting time messing around with that. So I'm just going to be running the stack out here on the far side. So to set up, I have a couple sets of these Craig setup blocks. I highly recommend these for router and table saw setup. I'll have links for these. Just going to crank this up to 3/8, which is half of my thickness, half of my material thickness, that is. These setup bars are great because they'll bridge the insert, table saw insert, and actually get on the cast so that you can really get this dialed in right where you want it. You can see you just raise the blade right up until it just tickles. Next thing I want to do is set my fence where I need it away from the dado stack. I think I'm just going to put a 1/2 inch rabbet by 3/8 on it. So that's pretty easy. This is 1x6 stock. So I'll just bump my fence over to 5 inches, touching the inside of the dado stack, and that should work pretty good. Next order of business is to get my Jessam material stock guide set up. It's a super simple and easy process. This is a scrap of 1x. You don't hit the scrap on the guide here. You actually set it on this other part, which is a little bit higher. So you just set that down on there and crank your knob, and now it's set right where it needs to be to pull that stock through. So you really can't get much simpler. I'm getting these out about as far as I can. That way I'm getting pressure downward on the center of the workpiece. Alrighty, and here we go. We're ready to start milling lumber. I will turn on my dust collector, hearing protection, and we will start running these through. Alrighty, and here we go. We're ready to start milling lumber. I will turn on my dust collector, hearing protection, and we will start running these through. Alrighty, and here we go. We're ready to start milling lumber. I will turn on my dust collector, hearing protection, and we will start running these through. point, I just stopped the saw after doing 2 pieces, and I want to put these together just to test fit and see how my height setting is, kind of get a feel for it. This is going to be about 20 feet in the air, so it's not overly critical that it's perfect. I think I might be just a little bit low with my height setting. Yeah, I might just bump it up just a touch. All right, we're on to test fit number 2. Went a little bit deeper, and this should be much better. Better to be a little bit too deep than not deep enough, because the way it sits on the ceiling, it'll still come out nice and flush on the face, and you won't be able to tell it's a hair off because it'll hide in the rabbet down here. So that should work. All right, so I have 24 boards total, so I've got 22 more to go, which means 44 passes. It is 7:15, so we will see how long this takes to mill all this up. That's it. It is 7:48. So it took a little bit over a half hour to mill all of this shiplap on a table saw using a dado blade. All right, so I am back on this job site, and I did get my shiplap installed. Don't have any real installation footage, just kind of needed to get it done. But that's where it went in between these 2 really nice trusses that I made in the shop and then installed. So very happy with how it all came together. You can see I did use a scribe mold up there. That would have taken forever to cut both cuts on both sides, because as it goes around the barrel, the angle actually changed and it was a compound cut. So using a piece of scribe made a lot of sense. So I hope you enjoyed the shiplap video. It turned out great. It'll stand up nice. It goes really well in that barrel with these arches and everything. So if you got any questions, comment below, and hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.